Next one is Sony. That's going to be Monday night, right?
Well, they've sort of announced what they're focusing on.
Yeah.
In a very interesting way. So I actually listened to the PlayStation Blogcast, which had Sean Layden on it, kind of laying out what they have in mind for E3. And I'm a little worried about it after listening to that discussion with him, because a lot like they did for PSX, he was framing it like, don't think of this as a traditional press conference. We're doing something a little bit different this year. It's like, what? Different, boo! But what are you saying on that is like, we're taking a deep dive on 4 games. So it's going to be Death Stranding, Ghost of Tsushima, Spider-Man, and Last of Us 2. He's like, and there'll be room for like third-party announcements as well, but we're talking about like details and the scope and the breadth of those games. And he's made it seem like it's going to be a little bit PSX-y, where like the developers come on stage and just a little more casual chit-chat.
I'm all for that.
Really?
As long as like the games are like... One thing that bothers me about E3 press conferences the last couple of years is that it's like basically just a bunch of trailers.
Yeah.
And I kind of want a little bit deeper dive. Like I'd love to hear from the developers a little bit more. I know it can be risky, but with Spider-Man in particular, me personally, I don't feel like I need to know much more about that game.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to deep dive on that. And then Death Stranding,
I want like 4 hours on that.
Yeah,
I want to know what that is.
It's going to be like 4 hours of them sort of dancing. Like, oh, it's going to be real weird.
No,
it's going to be.
Nope, they've done that. I think this is the time. This is the show
You think
where you
they're
show
gonna
gameplay.
This is
we
what
see
The third person
Yeah.
shooting and whatever double jumps they've got.
a
the
HUD
double
and
jumps.
everything. Yeah.
I think we're seeing HUD. We're seeing HUD, folks. HUD or bust.
It's HUD time. I will say though, I think honestly, as much as I want to see Death Stranding, I think Ghost of Tsushima is the one that I would most likely stick around if I wasn't like, employed. I that would be the thing that I would tune in for.
Really?
Because we know the least about that game even with as little as we know of Death Stranding.
Yeah.
I think you're totally right. I think that's going to be a huge impact. I think they opened the show with Spider-Man. I think they closed with Last of Us Part 2.
Yeah.
And then, I think Ghost of Tsushima, seeing gameplay from that, dare I say it, a HUD, I think that's going to be a fascinating deep dive.
Hold on now.
All right. Well, it's a bold prediction there.
I don't know. I still think, like, even with those 4, I still think that even if they don't have the traditional like press conference sort of cycle of like trotting different people up on stage and saying things, I still think that you're getting. I still think we're going to get some sort of like. There have to be announcements there.
Do you think they'll do that during the pre-roll? Because they had a few announcements before their conference.
Was that Guacamelee 2 or stuff
it
like
was like
that?
Undertale on PS4, stuff like that.
Maybe I think it's more of a thing of like. It's like, okay, we're focusing on these 4 games, but before we do that, here's Sean Layden, and he's going to come up and be like, hey, everyone, before we get to the meat of our presentation, we have some exciting things in the works here at PlayStation.
But first, I want to reveal that you can change your usernames.
Yeah,
he hinted heavily it was coming now.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Or
so like a thing like that. I still think even if they don't have, even if there's nothing to show for it, like, it was after Horizon came out, last year at E3, they announced Frozen Wilds.
Right.
I think even though that Sony Santa Monica is like not confirming anything, I think this is the avenue to be like, also, we're going to have some, God of War DLC.
I say no to that, but that's a good take.
Or they just use it as the intermission between like, hey, we're going to, tear down the stage or whatever and have our next group. While you're waiting, here's a trailer for a new thing.
Well, I think they can carve out time. Even though they say it's deep dives into all this other stuff, I could see it as like the Crash Bandicoot style announcement, or even what they did for like the Medieval announcement, where it's just like logo, blah, of just getting out of the way, talking about like Blue Point Games rumored that they're remaking like Demon Souls. I think that'd be a good avenue for that. Like, hey, Demon Souls is back, everybody. All right, moving on to Spider-Man, or whatever the hell they frame it.
It's weird, like Joe said, it's like all eyes are on you. It's like the biggest day of the year where everybody's looking at you in the industry, and like it'd be weird to not capitalize on that in some way with an announcement of some kind.
Yeah, well,
other than the fact that like Death Stranding has a HUD.
Keep in mind, and that is huge.
Yeah, it's
don't
a
get
big
me started
deal,
on the
but-
HUD. Yeah, I'm very excited for it. But keep in mind that third party can still make announcements, right? Like last year they had Monster Hunter on the stage, and they made time for like Marvel vs. Capcom. So they're in bed with Capcom, maybe still, right? And so like does not Revelations, but Resident Evil 2, like the remake, does that show up there as like PSVR supported, something like that?
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean,
Devil May Cry 5 rumored.
For that matter, we know about Mega Man 11, right? So I would think they would show off more of that game somewhere.
and they could do it there.
Capcom doesn't have a press conference, right?
And they'll never get
And they
one.
never will.
They don't deserve it.
Dirty Capcom.
I'm a little concerned about your comments early on though, because like if it's like the PSX conference, it's going to be might be a little rough at points. Just like getting them to, oh yeah, we worked for a lot of hours on the sound of The Last of Us, and it was very difficult to.
But if they're showing gameplay for those 4, maybe people won't care. Maybe people are ready for a different style thing, where instead of just a quick superficial trailer, they can dive in and watch 10 minutes of Tsushima gameplay. You know, something like what they did last year at EA for Battlefront 2. Except more interesting. Remember that when they kept teasing that up, and then they showed just like what felt like a 3-hour multiplayer round? It's like, holy God, you guys!
So, I feel like I feel like that kind of thing is fine. Like the hey, 4 games. This is just what we're digging in on. I think that's great if you're Ubisoft, if you're EA, if you are like just a third party software manufacturer. I think as a hardware manufacturer, you need to do more than just show some first party games.
Yeah.
To to sort of set a trajectory for the year that the PlayStation 4 is going to have.
Ooh, Final Fantasy 7 remake.
So
would that be there?
I would love that.
I think if it were going to be there, it would be one of the games on that list.
Wait, doesn't Square have a press conference?
They do have a press conference now,
so
too,
they might have something big.
But they usually do that weird thing where it's like they show like a trailer at one of them and then dive in deep on gameplay somewhere else.
Yeah,
I hate that. I hate it when they split games across those different press conferences. Just keep it focused to your company, ladies.
Do you think more people will be talking about Xbox's conferences, or Sony is considering the sort of different structure for both?
Just like buzz around the games?
Yeah.
I'd say Sony, right?
I think, maybe the games for Sony, but I could definitely see a world where at the end of it, we say Microsoft has the best press conference because they show so many games.
I mean, they're a bigger question mark right now, so they have the biggest opportunity to blow us away.
That was just a clip from a larger show called The Game Informer Show. You can find it on iTunes, Google Play, or GameInformer.com. We take the fun opportunities and exclusive information from Game Informer magazine and boil it into a show that airs every Thursday with exclusive cover story information, developer interviews, a lot of fun stuff. So come love games with us.